And so I know you have done a lot in your own personal homeschool of maybe modifying your schedule or your learning environment. So
Oh, yes.
tell us a little bit about that. How do you do that? What are some ways?
Oh, so many ways. First of all, I gave up probably in like year 6 or 7 about having this. I gave up on this idea of having this perfect homeschool classroom. Yeah, I've probably had like at least 4 or 5 different setups throughout the years and no. So what I have done now is I have not that you're asking about how I organize myself, but practical things can be helpful. I have a section of all the materials, and that's my storage area, right? And then where works. So my girls who are now, I've got 17, 14, and I have 9. Now, the 14 and 17-year-old, they're so independent. So their learning environment now is in their room at their desk, but that's what works for them. However, even the 14-year-old, she has lots of sensory needs, and we're big in our home about understanding our own sensory needs, understanding why we have a hard time focusing at times. Oh, the vernacular in our home is very like, I am feeling dysregulated. Like, this is just natural language we have in our house.
Sure.
So she's got like a hammock swing in her room, and that is one of the best places for her because of her sensory needs to read, read a textbook, so she's on her swing, getting that input, because when we are involved in vestibular input, and I don't want to throw out too many terms, but when we're moving, when our body is in space and floating in space, it releases histamine in the brain, which helps keep us alert. So those cartwheels, your child that's got it's always flipping or upside down or falling out of chairs, their movement, that type of behavior is not disobedience. That's the brain telling that child, right, that it needs to wake up. Yes. That's why the brain is doing that. And so that's how we've modified. She's got a hammock swing. We've got a sensory swing. We've got the trampoline. So we do a lot of like jumping on the trampoline. We'll do flashcards, or we'll just talk about a story we read.
Yes.
Right. That's when because talking and dialogue is so key to language and processing and communication skills. And people don't realize how important communication skills are. At the end of the day, when we're a writer, the goal of writing is communicating our thoughts and ideas to another human being. But so I think we've lost that a lot of times, even in our homeschools, where it's very paper pencil, and we shut down the language processing area by not appreciating dialogue. So lots of movement.
That
and
is
I know I'm all over the place there.
No, that's so good.
Yeah, there's just so many ideas. I know you get this.
Oh, absolutely. When my now 22-year-old son, who is dyslexic, but I didn't know it at the time. He was probably 5. And I was reading out loud to my children, and he was all over the place, flipping and upside down on the couch and, hanging off of things. And I was like, why aren't you listening? Why aren't you doing, you're not being still and listening. I was so upset.
Yes.
And he was like, I am listening. And I was like, no, you're not. And then later, a few seconds later, I was like, well, if you're listening, then tell me what I just said. And of course, he could tell me almost verbatim what I just said, because he just needed that movement. He needed it.
Yes.
And so I learned very quickly with that child, that was the one that rocked my world. I learned very quickly he needed to be jumping on the trampoline or skipping outside on the sidewalk or just moving to learn, to take it in, and to keep him still. Blocked him from being able to learn anything. Like he could,
Amen to that.
He could not. No.
Absolutely. Don't you, like, when you think back to those early years with your boy, and I think back to the things my 17-year-old, like, I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry. Like,
I know, it's true.
Right? But you were my guinea pig, and you were I think about times where I would get frustrated when she would skip a word. So she'd read Like she read, it's interesting. Both my girls read very early. They decoded very early. But there's a difference between visually tracking, processing the code of reading, decoding, and saying a word out loud. There's a difference between that and integrating the text into a cohesive message. Anyways, I would get so mad at her and frustrated. Why are you skipping lines? You're being lazy. Like I would say, oh, I feel so bad. So if any mom feels bad, like I'm there. Thank goodness she forgives me and she still loves me.
It's a journey. It's a process, right?
I know.
So so socialization is always the question with homeschooling.
Yes.
And with these kids, with these different needs, different maybe neurodivergent situation, they might struggle with socialization more than others, maybe. How do you get socialization opportunities for your kids with different needs?
Well, first of all, I found personally the most helpful and beneficial thing that I have done for my family, for my children, for my relationships with them is to saturate myself in a very in a neurodivergent, like a very affirming, and when I say affirming, I mean like strengths-based, if depending on your faith, God designed us this way for a reason and you have a plan on your life. Very, very positive. So the point is understanding that, particularly in the autism world, that autistic social skills are not wrong. Autistic social skills are not bad. They're different. And if we can shift our lens, and recognize, oh, this is who they are, this is how they're designed, I promise you, there are moms everywhere with their kids at home hiding, not going to social events because they're afraid that something's wrong with them. But if you just reach out, if you put it out there and use, I recommend moms get into local Facebook groups.
Yes.
Okay. I love Facebook for the groups. Okay. I'm not saying it's all healthy, but there's so many good things that you can use. So get into small local Facebook groups and you focus on your child's interests and you look for events or you create events based on your child's shared interests. So if your child's into Minecraft, hey, moms, my boy really, really loves, and I've done this before in a Facebook group, my boy really, really loves Minecraft. Do you have a child that loves Minecraft? Let's try a Minecraft day at my house. You just have to throw it out there and be willing to be the mom to take a step out there.
Yes.
Does that make sense? Like,
yeah.
Don't think there's something wrong with your child. There's so many millions of kids out there that need community. It's just we have this belief system that holds them back. Not to say it's not not to say it's not hard, but find those groups. Now, obviously, you and I both know in the homeschool world, especially where we are. I mean, North Carolina, you can't get in more of a homeschool hub of the world.
There's a lot, for sure.
There's so many homeschoolers. There's so many homeschool groups. There's so many co-ops. If you're stuck at home for a reason, one place that I have found to be fantastic for neurodivergent kids is OutSchool. OutSchool is amazing for topical things that your child likes. So if your child loves trains or engineering there is a group for that. And all these kids, they gel and they learn to listen to each other and have fun with each other. I mean, the sky is the limit. But there's so many opportunities for socializing. And I don't mean to go on a ramble here, but one more thing I really want to encourage is at the end of the day, when you have a 22-year-old, so you get this right now. It's like, what do you want your child to believe about themselves as into adulthood?
Yes.
Because if I have a child who is raised in a system that tells them everything about them is wrong, everything they like is wrong, everything is wrong, what do they believe about themselves? Right. Because those beliefs, that's 70, 80% of their life. This time we have is fleeting with them. And we're so focused on shoving in academic content that can be done very quickly. Yes. Very quickly. Yes. You and I both know this.
Right.
So do I want my child in a system that is very opposed to them as a human being? Or do I want to bring them home and take charge of who is going to be the continual messages sent to my child. Because eventually we know the mental health rates in our culture.
Yes.
But you look at neurodivergent children and it's really bad. Yes. And we have to do something different. So for that mom who's on the fence, think long-term, about what you want your child to believe about themselves, because our thoughts are where it is.
Absolutely.